Deportiva y con swing.
Deportiva y con swing.
La factoría del deporte desde New York para ti. Es una máquina.
Es una máquina
Pensada para ti.
pensada para ti.
Número uno en las redes, dale like y compartir. Con informaciones importantes siempre frescas.
Y con entrevistas que te ponen de cabeza.
Lo mejor del deporte lo encontrarás aquí.
Búscale en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Suscríbete,
Ay sí,
infórmate.
ok. Dale a la campana para que te llegue.
Thanks, Sandy. I'll just have a few words here. We starting this interview process a few weeks back. We sought to look at a variety of candidates from various backgrounds and experience levels. We looked at a number of criteria, spanning from culture and connectivity with players and staff to embracing new practices in both player performance and in analytics. We wanted to assess how the candidates problem solved, how they communicated, and most importantly, how they would shape a culture with high operational standards. So while the candidates that we talked to clearly made this a tough decision, and frankly, I feel good about the future of on-field baseball leadership. It was Buck's ability to connect to a wide range of people, his drive to compete, his curiosity blended with his experience, and his overall adaptability that led us to naming him manager of the New York Mets. So with that said, I would like to introduce Buck Showalter as our manager. And Harold, the call is yours.
Well, thank you, Billy. Thank you, Sandy. Buck, before you make your remarks, I think there's a jersey there. If you wouldn't mind, you and Angela each holding up a side of that.
Hey, Harold, nice going. You got it here in one day. You're good.
Nothing like a virtual photo opportunity. Thank you, Buck. I believe you have the hat there. If I can ask you to don the cap, and then the floor is yours. Let you make some remarks, and then we'll go to questions.
Gonna mess up what hair I've got left. God bless you. Hey, thanks to everybody. It's a great honor to be here today with Angela, and just a heartfelt thank you to Steve and Sandy, and of course Billy and Alex too. Everybody. The Mets are very precious to them. The fans, they're precious to me. The things it's a great charge to keep that we have ahead of us, and I just want everybody to know that it's going to be a priority. From day one, to put a product out there that everybody can be proud of. There's going to be people when we're on the West Coast staying up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to see how the Mets did or do. And I just want everybody to embrace that responsibility, and very excited about the potential for things this season and beyond. And, just about, Steve continues to eliminate excuses that we might have for things we can't do. I'm very excited about the analytical department and the things that they're going to bring for us to give us hopefully an advantage. And all the work Billy and I and Sandy are starting to put together, the coaching staff will take our time, and it's just it's got the potential to continue to be the great place that it is and was. So not a lot of lip service. It's kind of a show me situation, and I just want everybody to know that the Mets are going to be something that's very precious to the people that we bring in, and it's a great responsibility that I and we will take very seriously every day. And there's ebbs and flows to the season, but the consistency of how we go about our business and the people we surround ourselves with and how we treat our each other is going to be special. And I've missed being part of a team more than anything, and I'm looking forward to being a part of the Mets team. I'm very honored here today.
Buck, thank you very much. I'd like to remind everybody on this Zoom to use the raise your hand tab if you'd like to ask a question. And when doing so, if you'll state your name and affiliation and who you'd like you to direct your question to. With that, we're going to begin with Steve Gelb. Steve, your line is open.
Hi, Buck. This is Steve Gelbs from SNY. Congratulations. This is a team that over the last few years has had a lot of talent and has just, for one reason or another, been unable to get over that hump and kind of transition that talent into wins. You're someone who's been known over your years to take on teams and very quickly, create winning cultures and winning teams. What is it specifically that you think you bring that can take the talent that's already here and obviously the talent that was added and become a winner?
Every situation, Steve's different, and you try to bring what the players need. You try to decide and figure out what the needs are, to reach their potential. And I think that's, it's not about someone adjusting to me, it's adjusting to the needs of the team. And, leaning on Sandy and Billy and a lot of people that are here. I think one of the mistakes people make is when they come into a situation and think everything there isn't good or has to be changed. That's a mistake, and that won't be done. There's some really quality people here that can be part of it. So I think slow down and not knee jerk. And, I purposely try to have a real clear mind about every player and trying to make up my own mind about things, but at the same time, lean on people that I know more than I do. So there's no magic sprinkle dust. It's about winning baseball games. It's about, that's really, it's like the chicken and the egg, what comes first? Everybody wants to use the word culture, but that's a multifaceted word in my mind. And there's a lot of dynamics that go into that. The good players part of it, I think ownership is going to be very strong in that backing. The other part, but then there's another part of it. We have to take it and make it work. It's got to be a team. And like I said before, that's what I've missed the most, is being part of the team and not having everybody pulling in the same direction. So we'll see.
You mentioned the analytics department, and you've seen the game change a whole lot in your decades in it as a manager. What is your general philosophy on, pardon me, the best way to blend the analytics, take that information with the human side of the game that obviously exists?
Well, there's a lot of common denominators of teams that win consistently. I think one of the biggest things I'm drawn to is teams and situations and organizations that can win consistently. It's so hard to do, especially winning when you're expected to win. But the adaptation of different methodology, if you look at certain guys without mentioning names and their ability to do that, it's how they have continued to have success. But all the information out there, I'll just say this, Steve, if somebody thinks that I'm going to go back to the hotel or the house and think that maybe we got beat because someone else had better or used information better than we did, or analytics, whatever you want to call it, you don't know me very well. Okay. I've always been very spongeful with information to a fault. And just like everybody else, I don't have a corner on it. There's a lot of smart people in this game, but if you think that I'm going to let somebody beat us by having better analytical information, or because someone on the staff doesn't understand it, then I'm not going to talk about it. We'll show you. But there's a lot of avenues. I think one of the things a manager has to do is create avenues where every department feels comfortable and everybody can bring what they bring. I'm one of my pet peeves is any type of hazing, whether it be a player, whether it be anybody. No, it just doesn't happen. If you're wearing Mets blue and orange, then bring it. Let's go. Bring what you bring and make sure we create a comfortable atmosphere for that to happen in. That was a pretty long answer, huh?
Thank you, Buck. We're going to go next to Mike Puma. Mike, your line's open.
I guess I'll start with a question for Sandy or Billy. And I know you can't mention specific players, but did the opinion of any player you might have just signed who seemed to like Buck a lot play into this decision at all? Might have been a pitcher for $130 million.
I'll take that. I talked to a lot of different people, no active players in this process, but I did reach out to some people that had played for a lot of the candidates actually in this process. So checked with coaches that have coached with people, general managers or presidents that have managed them. So really cast a wide net when we were looking into the candidates. So, but yeah, nothing specific, and I did not speak with any active player.
And also for Buck, you had success in Baltimore, took the team to the playoffs 3 times. The last 2 seasons weren't so great. Didn't end on a great note. I'm just wondering, kind of what happened at the end, and and then you were away for 3 years from managing. Just looking back on that.
Well, the first part, I'd rather ask to the end. So we got to get to all of them, right? So, it's painful when you start seeing something that's come together, and because of our situation in Baltimore and the way that we had to do it, we knew that there was going to be an end at some point, and you don't want to pull the plug too early, so to speak, and not be competitive when you think you still might be. You want to make that last as long as possible. And when we had to start moving players to try to gain as much as we could to get back to try to go forward, it was painful. It was painful. It's like when you put something together like the whole organization did, and you start seeing it coming to an end. It's painful, but you have to take some bullets along the way in order to get to the end game that hopefully at some point Baltimore will be able to get back to that competitive part. I will say this, I was what really caught my eye was how impressed I was with the candidates that Sandy and Billy had put together, same guys that I would be talking to. So I'm very honored to be mentioned in the same name as some of the people they talked to, because I knew the background work that Billy and Sandy were doing to try to make a good decision. What was the first question? Let me make sure I get all your questions answered. There were about 3 of them. I'll get the tough one out of the way first about what happened in Baltimore. Is that good enough? What else? I wish I knew sometimes.
I think you covered it. Thank you.
That was the first part. There was something else I think you asked.
All right, Mike.
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to you, Mike. And Mike, appreciate the reminder that, as everybody knows, due to the lockout, that we're restricted from speaking specifically about any players. So thank you for following along those guidelines that we're restricted to. Next question will come from Tony DeComo.
Hey, Buck. Anthony DeComo.com. Congrats. Welcome back to New York. I'm just curious, in your decades of experience, how has the job changed in terms of collaboration with the front office? What are your expectations for that here? And I would pose the same question to Billy, hiring an experienced manager such as Buck. How do you expect that to kind of unfold in terms of collaboration between the dugout and the front office and the things you guys are doing?
I think collaboration is a great word. It's not a new word in the language. It's, the great organizations almost in any sport have a real connectivity between the general manager, the field staff, and ownership. And it's something I know is not going to be a challenge here, because I know from being around, Billy and Sandy and now Steve, the passion that Steve has for the Mets and the city and the fans, and not necessarily in that order, because that's one thing that was very apparent to me early on in the conversation, is the love and passion that Steve and Alex have for the Mets and the things that they're willing to do and that's exciting. But I think the whole relationship, just about everywhere I've been, that relationship with the general manager and front office has been fun, for one thing, because there's nothing like being a part of, and you got that feeling that everybody's pulling in the same direction, and you have your times when you're bouncing things off each other, and you have a certain vulnerability that you should have, and let people see that you have an opinion, but at the same time you have respect for other people's opinion. There's a lot of very smart people in this game, and if anything, I'll be accused of asking too many opinions, and that's how you find out. And I'm looking forward to picking Billy's brain and a lot of the people. I had a hour plus conversation with Jeremy yesterday, Hefner, pitching coach. Very impressed with his knowledge of things. He had, I can't wait to get back on the phone with him, to be honest with you, but just trying to play catch up and not leave anything stone unturned as you go forward. But, you know, there's a lot of challenges you face on the field between the lines. The collaboration part of it, that won't be one of them.
Yeah, and just to add on the back of that, you know, one of the things that we instituted as part of the interview process was, you know, some breakout sessions that the candidates went through with, you know, members of the performance science group, members of the scouting group, members of the player development group, the analytics group. So we could, you know, kind of set the stage for that connectivity and you know, kind of the collaborative and inclusive environment that you know, I talked about in my introductory press conference, and something that you know, we're making part of our culture here. And so you know, obviously with the Mets and Steve and Alex's ownership and their commitment to the organization, you know, we've been able to add, or I've kind of witnessed from afar, the addition of a lot of resources, whether that's on the performance side, whether that's on the scouting side, whether that's on the analytics side. And, you know, the purpose of those departments is to serve the organization, serve the major league clubs, serve the minor leagues, serve the scouting efforts. And you know, Buck, through his experiences, you know, in a lot of different places, has seen a lot of different ways of doing things, and has kind of watched the game evolve. So, you know, what came across in the interview was a lot of curiosity and a lot of questions about, you know, how that group or how some of the new methods and ways of doing things, you know, can ultimately lead to you know, better player performance and a better result on the field. So it's definitely a kind of an all hands on deck operation, and you know, we look forward to lots of conversations, you know, leading up to games and conversations after the games, and, you know, working through the baseball calendar together.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Disha Thozar, your line is open.
Disha Thozar with the New York Daily News. Good to see you again, Buck.
Hey.
Just winning a World Series is obviously missing from your resume. Is that the biggest motivator in wanting to get back in the dugout here with the Mets?
You'd like that always to be the end game. You know, it'd be pretty self-serving, selfish to have that. It's not something that is going to define my life, but I can tell you this, it does wake me up every day now, but I think impacting people's lives, whether it be players, whether try to give them some shortcuts so they don't step on their tail like I did, different things, and learn. But obviously winning the World Series is what, you know, Billy and Sandy and Steve asked me, you know, why would I want to do this again? And that's the quick answer, you know, to be the last team standing. Not once, you know, you'd like to do it, you know, obviously it's going to be very hard to do. There are a lot of great people, you know, it's 30 of the best, you know, baseball has to offer, 30 teams. And so that's what makes it much more gratifying if you can reach it. But, you know, it sounds selfish if to say that that's the only reason and this is an avenue to it. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as, you know, the end game. If you can stay involved in the day-to-day operation, then the end game is something that everybody's successful as a result of it. So I understand the job description. The job description here isn't to be competitive or try to win 80 more games than you lose. It's to be the last team standing. And that's the focus. You know, how do we get better every day? You just grind each day and see where it takes you.
Thank you. And then I have one more for Billy. You said early in the managerial search that your goal would be to hire a manager who's a 10 out of 10. How close does Buck come to that perfect score?
Yeah,
Easy.
you know, it's well, go ahead, Buck.
No, easy.
You know, we set up a lot of the criteria for what we were looking for, right? Where there's connectivity to players, staff, you know, the ability to to speak with the media, be comfortable in the media, be comfortable in this type of environment in New York, embracing a lot of maybe, I don't even want to call it unconventional, but in embracing a lot of tactics, in an effort to kind of serve, run prevention, run scoring, and then, getting involved in the performance science, kind of a new nifty word that they use nowadays. But what that really means is player care, player health, and in the service of player availability, and then somebody that can mentor and grow, a coaching staff, but just in general, just a staff around them. I think we're all looking to learn off of each other. So Buck checked every one of those boxes through the interview process. So that's where we're headed. Go ahead, Buck. What you got?
Billy and I both know the only 10 sitting right here.
Let me just say this. Buck came as close as anybody in baseball possibly can to 10 out of 10. Buck's been around for a long time. First managerial job in 1992. I actually tried to hire him as manager of the Oakland A's a few years ago before he decided to go to Arizona. But you don't last as long as Buck has, and you don't remain as interested in a person who's been out of the game for 3 years if that person hasn't been adaptable, if that person hasn't been curious, if that person hasn't been able to evolve with the game itself. And so, a lot of these issues about analytics and so forth, to me, are interesting topics, but given what Buck has done in the past, relied on as much information as has been available to him, and as adaptable as he has been to the way the game has changed over time, and still be curious and energetic and motivated by the task at hand here in New York. He has come as close to 10 out of 10 as anybody possibly can.
Thank you, Sandy. Next question will come from Tim Britton. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi, it's Tim Britton from The Athletic. For Buck and Billy, how much did you two know each other personally before this process, and what have you learned about each other through this process to know how your relationship might work over the next several years?
Go ahead, Buck.
Okay, I obviously have known Billy from afar. The reputation, listening to different people that come in contact with him, the passion. I know how much Gene Michael loved Billy and the things that he brought. And I remember him talking to me every time we would come into the stadium to play. He would stick his head in, and somewhere along the line, he said that, he used to say, "You got to meet this guy. He's going to be a good one." And interviewing out in Anaheim a few years back, spending some time, I could see very quickly what everybody was talking about, and just love the passion, the energy, just the bulldoggedness, where he wants to just. He's one of those guys that answers the phone on the first ring. How can we make the Mets better today? I mean, it's just he's on all the time. He doesn't have an off button, and it's about, obviously he's got his priorities from a family standpoint there, but I can tell that he's going to share a real connectivity to the day-to-day grind it takes to get where we want to go.
Good. Billy?
Yeah, and Tim, it's a good question, because my upbringing in the game, or a lot of my upbringing in the game, in those developmental years in New York, the first time around, would hear a lot of the stories about Buck, and we've had some common mentors, in the game, and Gene Michael gets recognized a lot, but even Bill Livesey is somebody that I kind of come through that tree when it comes to player evaluation, and clearly with Brian Cashman as well. And so there's a lot of common denominator, watching Buck across the diamond, or I guess, from my vantage point, maybe, in the stands, he really runs a really good game, and was kind of a pain in the butt in a good way, for some of the teams that I was a part of. And just really appreciated, his ability to really, drive his clubs it seemed like squeeze every single ounce of ability out of those players, how they played the game. Everybody was in the right spot at the times that they needed to be there. If you paid attention to things that were going on away from the ball, and looking up what some of the left fielder might be doing, or the right fielder might be doing, or the catcher might be doing, or it just moved in such a way where I just always had this respect for him, and then getting a chance to really sit and talk in a little bit more detail with him a few years back, felt that connection there, and that common denominator, and how we look at the world, and the types of standards that that we have in a highly competitive environment such as professional baseball. So there was a lot of things that I think we shared our view on.
Thank you, Billy. Joel, your line is open.
Thanks, Harold. Buck, I'm going to assume the coordination of your shirt and Angela's dress is your wife in Met Blue. I'm wondering, you manage players in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. Do you think players are players, or do you believe you have to manage in a very different way today than you would in other places along the lines?
First of all, I love that everybody else has a first and last name. Joel's like Michael, Adele, Rihanna. Perfect. It was Joel, and everybody knew. Nice going, Joel. God bless you. I've known Joel for a while, but it's funny. I've been talking to some people along the way. Tony La Russa, Dusty Baker, even Joe Madden, everybody, I want to pick their brain about what can I expect, what might be different. It's not like I've been out for 10 years. I've been pretty connected through television because I was responsible for 30 teams instead of one. But, I'm anxious to see. I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I do think you have to do certain things the same, as far as, the things that allow you to win a baseball game. It's a 90-foot increment game. Obviously 360 feet happen with a home run, but the people that can keep you from going 90 feet, whether that be pitching, defense, people in the right place, etc., or how do we gain 90 feet, whether it be a base on balls or whatever. It's about trying to attack the 90 feet of the game, but I can't wait to sit down with some of these people. I think a lot of people lose sight sometimes that we haven't had the luxury of analytics, and without, trying to be negative towards place you've been, so what do? You have to adapt. You have to figure out a way to do some other things better than the people you're competing against. So, I think Billy made a good point, and so did Sandy, about the curiosity to embrace, but at the same time, you want to find out what things tell you and why, and what things don't tell you. There's always, we want to make sure we cover the separator between, a lot of people look at a lot of the similar numbers, depending on what you want to weight and what your analytics, but what are you willing to do the things that are further away from analytics. You want to be well-rounded in every part of it and make everybody, like I said, feel comfortable bringing what they bring. I can't wait. Sandy and Dusty both said it's going to be, you're going to really enjoy some of the stuff out there. And I don't want to act like it's Braille, something I don't. We've been using the best stuff that were available to us. I'm looking forward to the things that Steve has made available to us. We have eliminated another excuse.
Okay, I just to follow up on that is, I was talking about specifically dealing with the interrelationship with players. I was around, not that you said jump in 1992 and someone jumped, but there was probably a different manager to player leadership than maybe exists today. Do you believe that? And do you think you have to behave with players or treat players or connect with players in a different way in 2022 than in 1992?
Joe, yes and no. Okay, it's I'll say it again. It's about what do the players need from me, and without naming names, because I know all the situation we're in with that. But it's trying to bring what a player needs, and trying to evaluate what they need. And your ego is not as such that you have that vulnerability to deliver it. And I mean, that's the end game. The game's about the players. It's about creating an environment that makes their skills come to the top, and and being proactive with things before you have to react to them, to have your finger on the pulse of things in there. And it's about who the players want to be. Who do we want to be? What do we want to be about? Because a long time ago, somebody named Billy Martin told me, he said, "Hey, got to do what's right. Players might mourn you for 5 minutes. I understand the shelf life of managers. So you bring what is needed by the players and the organization, and you understand what your job description is to get them to play at the apex of their game. Now, whether I have to, if there's something different going on, I'll know what music they're listening to, Joe. I'll know what, believe it or not, I'll know what certain styles that they like and whatever. Hey, I look forward to that. I mean, it's part of life. It's fun. And they might be surprised at some of the songs I'll be humming around the locker room."
Bruce Beck, we will come to you next.
Buck, welcome back. Bruce Beck, WNBC TV. We hear a lot that you demand accountability on the field and in the clubhouse. So how would you define accountability, and how vital is it for success?
Well, it's once again, there are times, Steve, where you walk through a locker room and you got it going on. And you might have lost the day before, and you felt like it was a fluke. And there are times, you've been in a lot of locker rooms, you walk through, and even though you won, there's something not quite right. So that accountability for the players, I mean, it's about them. What do they want to be about? It's about the players, and then byproduct of that is about the fans. I mean, it's a real simple job description. And what do they want to be about? I and the coaching staff can talk about all these things and all this lip service, but what are they willing to embrace to get what we want, where we want to get? And this isn't some dictatorial, do as I say, don't ask questions. I want them to ask questions about everything we're doing, because we're going to have good reasons, and I'm going to pick their brains about a way to do it better. Tell me what you need from me. Tell me what you need from the staff. You try to eliminate all the possible excuses and all the sympathetic ears to the BS that won't allow us to win baseball games. It's not that, it ain't as complicated as we make it sometimes. Sorry, you got me going.
Thank you, Buck. Eddie C., we'll come to you next. Your line's open.
Ed Coleman, WFAN, WCBS Mets Radio. Buck, welcome back to New York.
How you doing?
I'm good. Merry Christmas to you, Angela, too. My question was on collaboration, but I think you guys kind of covered that before. So I'll just ask you about what your perception of the Mets has been over the last couple of years. This is a team with a lot of expectations, but hasn't quite gotten there over the last couple of seasons. But as an onlooker, as an analyst, what was your perception of this team?
Obviously, you are who you are when a season's over. There are no Cinderellas in baseball. If you're one of those teams in the playoffs, there's for a reason, and if you're one that's not, there's a reason there. Ed, I've been on teams that an expansion year that you went through parts of the year where you ended up being very bad record-wise, but there were parts of that season where you didn't think you'd lose another game. On the flip side of that, I've been fortunate to manage teams that won 100 games, and there are parts of that season where you didn't know if you'd ever win another game. So you keep in mind on the reality, and I'm trying to keep a clear mind. I want every player to think that, hey, I'm coming in there with a lot of open-mindedness about what happened. We don't want to repeat the past, and certainly you're aware of it, but you don't want them to think that you think that's going to be the case forever. So I got a clear mind about it. And, Billy and I have talked a lot. I kind of want them to walk into camp knowing that, this is a fresh start for everybody. But, and there's so much, okay, it's about injuries. Oh, it's about this guy was out of position, this, that. Okay. It's just, I think everybody wants to, show me the end game here. All this other stuff, I got it. We all have opinions about it. Thank God we do, and thank God people care. If you don't think people care about the New York Mets, and if somebody's not willing to take that responsibility in the locker room, this isn't something you put your headphones on and say, I don't want to listen to it. It's there, but there's no place like it when you get it right. And that's what, when you get it right, and there's a lot of people living and dying with what you're trying to do every day. So there is an accountability and responsibility to that. And it's not for everybody. it's not for everybody. We're going to try to find out who it's for, who's in, who ain't.
Mike Recaro, your line is open.
Hey, Buck, welcome back to New York.
Hey, Mike.
I'm curious, you cut your teeth as a young manager under George Steinbrenner back at a time when he was larger than life, for better or for worse. What did that experience, how has that informed the rest of your career and how you deal with bosses, with situations, with things that could be a little more, out of the box than most guys have to deal with?
Well, first of all, it's always an honor to get a chance, and I started out, as a player and then as a coach, and then as a manager in minor leagues. I don't think you heard me complain. I knew the job description in New York, and Mr. Steinbrenner gave me a chance to support my family and be in a game that I loved dearly for 19 years over there. And I was always thankful to this. I've saved some letters he wrote me after I'd left. After the death of my father. It was very touching, but very demanding, but you knew the job description. When you left camp as a minor league manager, you had two jobs: develop players and win your league. Not necessarily in that order. Winning was always at a paramount. And it's funny, sometimes in the minor leagues, if you're losing games, but you're developing players, well, sometimes learning how to win is a part of development too. Billy and I have talked about this. And, I'm glad that situation's in great hands here between the scouting and player development. It was a real draw for me, seeing the people they had in place there. That's exciting. But, I was fortunate. I learned a lot along the ways about what to do and what not to do. We learn as much from people about maybe there's a better way to handle a situation along the way. But, I've always been very positive about my experience with Mr. Steinbrenner, and he shared the same passion for winning that, Stick and I did. And, he didn't tolerate, guys that didn't share that passion. So I was very lucky in a lot of ways, but I've had some great owners along the way. And that's why I'm so excited about Steve, the passion that he and Alex have. We keep talking, and she's become very, people are constantly talking about her involvement in things on and off the field where the Met Foundation things come into play. So it just seems like there's a lot of things in place, and some people have worked very hard to give us a chance. So we got to take it and run with it. But the experience with Mr. Steinbrenner and our owners, different owners along the way, I've learned a lot from them, and always going to be thankful for the opportunity they gave me.
Next question will go to Jake Seiner. There you go, Jake.
There, got it. Yep. Hey, Buck, Jake Seiner with the AP. Welcome back to New York. I know you haven't been away from the dugout for that long, but there are a lot of strategies that have boomed or evolved in that time. The Rays were experimenting with the opener in 2018. Defensive shifts have nearly doubled in that time. There's all the things Billy talked about with performance science. I know the Orioles, you guys were shifting. You were pretty aggressive on shifting when you were there. I know you had some relievers who started games in 2018. I don't know if those were openers exactly, but I'm curious, just as you've watched from kind of a step removed as some of these things have changed, is there anything you've been impressed by or inspired by or surprised by, and any developments you see happening that you disagree with?
Well, you call it opener. Some people might call it a spot start. I think every one of these teams would love to have 5 starters where they didn't have to do it. Tampa would love to have 5 starters. I can't name names of players. You could pick out one on their staff, but so what are you going to do? Not compete? So you think of the other things. You think of necessity breeds a lot of things, and it's about competing. Billy and I hope to find 5, 6, 7. The depth of a pitching staff. Attacking the what ifs. It's not a normal thing to do. Your body to play 7 days a week for 7 or 8 months, so you can roll the dice in October. So you better, be able. I think from the health standpoint, but looking at different things that have come into the game, there are a different form of some things that were done before. But I'm anxious to understand some of the probabilities. When you do certain things, there's a return for all of it. I'm fascinated by it. Believe me, there's some guys down in there that are gonna say, geez, can I get a break here from him? I can't wait to find out. My curiosity and the bottom line is about, is there an inch way we can make the Mets better that day? You know, like I said, I don't want to go back to the hotel or the house and think that someone beat us because they were, and I know Steve and Sandy and Billy feel the same way. They're willing to do whatever it takes to see if we can get an edge, and you're constantly striving for it. And that's why you look at guys without naming coaches that adapt. And I'm looking forward, but I've adapted my whole career because things have changed since when I first came in. You know, heck, Angela used to do charts for me in the Florida State League about where guys would hit the ball. She can still remember the colored pencils and the different hump and the lines and the different checks about which pitchers. And this was Florida State League in A ball. You know, now we were shifting a little bit on 6 at bats. Now we've got 600. So obviously the technology is better, but I still got those charts. I can name the 5 starting pitchers. She can too, and what color pencil they all had. Go ahead. I'm sorry, did I answer you?
Thank you, Buck. John Harper, we're going to come to your line next. Hold on, John, I'm getting you unmuted here. John, we'll come back to you there, give you a chance to unmute. James Wagner, we'll come to you. Your line is open.
Hey, Buck, it's James Wagner from the New York Times. Congratulations,
Hi, James.
Angela.
How are we looking?
Good. I mean, in a normal year, I guess, in the transition to this new job, I mean, you'd reach out to players and get to know them, start calling, texting them. What has that transition been like, given the unique nature of the lockout? And I guess, how will you, I guess, handle like getting to know people if you can't talk to everyone?
Yeah, I can't, and I can't, and I won't. You know, obviously, it's there's some other things going on. It is going to be a challenge, but fortunately, nobody's going to have a head start on us. I've been with 2 situations like this where you had shortened spring trainings. I mean, that's my focus right now, is making sure that, you know, I was talking to Jeremy about it yesterday, that we're focused on a shortened spring training potential. And the biggest challenge of that is the pitchers. The pitchers, I'm hoping that doesn't happen for the Mets fans and for us. It certainly would make spring training a lot easier, but can't control it. So we have to prepare for the what ifs of a shorter spring training. And that's going to be a challenge. And the communication part of that will catch up with very quickly. That's just the onus is on us to get that done. You know, I want to make the player's path as easy as possible, but getting a team ready and a potential short spring training is going to be, you know, shame on us if we're not prepared for that when it happens, because usually a normal spring training, you've got a buffer period where, you know, if you have a setback with a spring training arm or a leg or whatever, or a sore shoulder, you've got time for that to come back and make the start of the season. But if you shorten up spring, that buffer or safety net won't be there. But it's going to be tough. I'm okay with it as long as everybody else is not doing it.
Harp, let's try to come back to you. Your line is open.
All right. Hey, Buck, good to see you. John Harp.
Hey, John.
Hey, you talked about this. You've always wanted information, but analytics now does seem to be changing the game in some ways. Specifically, you talk about, maybe starting pitching. Analytics tells you a guy may not want a guy to face the lineup a third time around. How do you weigh that with, what your eyes are telling you, and how much do you trust that in terms of making those decisions, weighing them against the analytics?
I think the probabilities play in, but there's also some emotional part of it. You do have to take, and we're gonna have a great feed into the probabilities of things and what the percentages tell you what something could or couldn't happen. We've been using that forever, but I think we're going to have a lot better information. But there's a lot of factors that go into the final decision. Are you at home? Are you on the road? What do you got your schedule there? If you bring this guy in, where are you at with your bullpen? There's so many factors that figure into the final decision. It's not just a black and white, okay, he's thrown X number of pitches and they're going around the order X number of times. And I'll be aware of all that, and it'll figure into the factor. And it'll also who the human being is out on the mound. The heartbeat of a pitcher and what have you. And there's going to be some things done along the line that's going to make maybe a pitcher or somebody not particularly happy. That's part of it. You know, one of your jobs as a manager is to wear certain things. You know, you're always got to be careful about telling things that hurt innocent people. So, you know, that's part of my job description, to put us in the best situation. And there's an end game. There's always an end game. And what happens in one game, you might not put your best foot forward for that game, but it puts you in position to win the next 3 or 4 games, and to have the vision about, you know, what's happening down the road and how all your decisions affect, there's arteries of decisions. And I think you got to keep that in mind.
Tina Servacio, your line is open.
Thanks, Harold. Hi, Buck. Congratulations. And great to see you, Angela. Congratulations to you as well. Buck, you've been talking a lot about the players, and you have managed some of the biggest stars in this game. I mean, and you had multiple superstars on the Yankees and when you were at Arizona. And you don't have to talk, we can't talk specifically, but that is the case on this current Mets roster. What is the challenge in managing these superstars, and how do you approach it? Or is there something that you're looking forward to about having these type of men on this roster?
Well, it's always a fascination to, you know, thank gosh everybody's not robotic. And, you know, I want everybody, the last thing I'm going to ever do is suppress a personality or the way somebody goes. You know, everything's different. You can't just throw a blanket over everybody. That's part of the fun. Can you imagine how boring it would be if everybody was exactly the same? And I'm looking forward to getting to know these guys and basically finding out what they need from me and the coaching staff. You know, we're there to, and if there's going to be some bumps along the way, but, you know, these are the best players in the world. And so you need to understand that someone asked earlier, what did you see from afar? You know, it was like there are all these different talented players, but over the course of the season, certain things get exposed from a team standpoint because the psyche and the mental and emotional part of the game really plays on you in a long season. And I think to try to keep that consistency of, you know, I want them to walk through the door every day, know exactly what they're getting from me or from the coaching staff, that the reactions are consistent and the message and the accountability is consistent. But it's fun. Okay. It's fun. And I'm looking forward to having the fun of getting to know these guys and seeing what I can bring to help them.
Next up, we'll go to Bob Clappish. Bob, your line is open.
Hey, Buck, good to see you.
Hey, Bob.
I have 2 questions for you. First, until this opportunity came along, had you stopped getting your hopes up about getting another managerial job? And the second part is, will it work to your advantage in any way that you are now in your 60s and that you have there's an age gap between you and your players, as opposed to when you first started, you were in your 30s and you were sort of in the same generation of many of your players. So I'm wondering about the pluses and minuses now, just in terms of your age.
Well, let's go backwards front. Maybe it's advantage. I don't know. Ask me in a year or so, Bob. I remember for years people were telling me I was too young. Then I'm not sure. And then, you know, it's funny. The other day I had some time on the train and I was looking at ages of different guys in different sports. I tell you what, I'm actually one of the younger guys now, I think, if I look at it, of some of those guys, but I don't know. Sometimes I want to go to Dusty and Joe and Tony. Hey, thanks. You know, could you imagine if they had, you know, stepped on their tail and not done well with their teams? Right. So, you know, there's, you know, certain people that kind of paved the way. Clap, what was your first part of your question? I get so involved.
The question was, before this Met opportunity came along,
yeah,
did you pretty much, you know, written off managing again?
You know, I didn't stay up at night. You know, as Angela will tell you, it was one of those things that wasn't going to define my life. It was about how you treat people and the way you want to, you know, impact people about things that that nobody even knows about. And it really, I got to tell you, it wasn't something I stay up at night. It was always an honor when someone kicked my name around, or because of the history you've had. But there's so many good people out there. That's why I was so impressed with the list that I saw that Sandy and Billy were putting together, because I knew they were headed down the right path. And just to be in that group, especially in today's game. But, you know, we would love to have had a lot more analytics, for instance, in Baltimore. We just didn't have the funding for it. And I'm looking forward to having one, to be honest with you, a program.
Otis Livingston, we will come to you. Your line's open.
Otis Livingston, sports director at WCBS2. Welcome back to New York, Buck and Angela. Congratulations on the job. I have two-parter. First off, we've heard from a lot of coaches in other sports and managers that when they step away from the sport, they learn something. What do you feel like you learned that you will implement in your managerial style to make you an even better manager this time around? And also, seemed from the outset that you were the favorite. We're not going to talk about the pitcher who endorsed you, and it seemed like the owner also wanted you right off the top. How good does it feel to kind of be the front runner going in and to land the job and come back to New York?
Well, thanks. That's a good question about the evolution. I hope you evolve. It's, the old expression, adapt or die. But we do that because of the situations we've been exposed to. Shame on us if we've got some stubborn, this is my way. There are different ways to do it. Every spring we have a book with team defenses that changes. We talk to JJ Hardy or Derek Jeter or Francisco Lindor about how did you do it in Cleveland? How did you do that? You adapt to the talent you have and the people you have. There's not, and you welcome the feedback with the players about what do you think? How do you feel about this? This is why we're thinking we're doing it. Do you have a better way? When they take in that, hey, I've got a stake in this. It's responsible. I'm responsible for it. So that, evolve, that's been the easy part, because you have such a curiosity about how to get better. What are they doing? We steal a lot of stuff. I remember, I won't name a manager. He beat us the next year with a team defense and a bunt defense that we had been using. He stole ours and used the same thing. I look over, he tips his hat at me. I go, what is the greatest form of flattery? What is imitation? So I'm hey, if I see something I like with somebody else or a player's got a good idea, if you let your ego get in the way of your team being better and the Mets being better, then shame on you. What was the second part of that? You got me going.
I think it was, but just how good did it feel to land in New York as a front runner?
He was talking about being a favorite. I don't know about that. When I know it was very close, and if somebody made the call that Billy and Sandy and Steve had hired somebody else, I'd go, nice going, and I'd have called them and said, because they had some great candidates. It was, like I said, an honor to be considered. And I tell you, I have yet to read anything. Angela, I'll just say, hey, if there's something there I need to know about that I might get ambushed about or whatever, let me know. Otherwise, I've purposely stayed away from everything. So if somebody said or written something real nice, thank you. If somebody's written something the other way, I understand there's two sides to every issue, but I'm trying. So if somebody was considered this or that, I wish they'd have told me. It would save us a little anguish along the way.
We have time for a couple more. Pat Ragazzo, your line's open.
Pat Ragazzo of Sports Illustrated. Hey, Buck, welcome back and congratulations. You talked a lot about, coming in and learning what the players, need from you and, adapting to the personalities. But how do you keep some of the superstar talent on the roster more grounded and making sure that everyone kind of feels equal and not above the team?
Well, it's funny. What's fair for one may not be fair for another one. It's I don't know, in the spring, sometimes guys are wondering why they're going on a road trip or whatever. There's a thing up there that has service time, so there's some tiebreakers along the way, but that's a challenge for everybody. It seems like that, but the last thing you want to do is come in and try to suppress a lot of, if anything, I want everybody to feel comfortable about their personality fitting into. But there's got to be a reason for things that you do. It's everything's got to be about the Mets. It's got to be, you got a charge to keep with the fans, the city, people that are really, living and dying with everything you do out there. And it's a great responsibility. Some people run from it. So I think from trying to, I don't think people in the locker room look at guys as he's this ex-star and he can do this and he can do that. I tell you what's really been attractive to me is watching Billy and Sandy and Steve the type of people they've added in the offseason. And in some cases, they might have subtracted. You know, that sometimes your best addition is that. So, you know, you look at Marte and you look at Eduardo and you look at, you know, obviously I can't mention names, so I'm going to shut up. So, yeah, I just like the way they've gone about their name. The people that they've added would have been people I would have been interested in too.
Kevin Kernan, your line is open.
Almost got there. That's the first time I messed up, right? Okay.
I didn't hear anything.
Hey, Buck, congratulations. I'm not going to ask you about the state of college football in Florida, but I am going to ask you about, was there a leadership gap in baseball? You mentioned some of these managers that kind of helped repave the way for you. Leadership gap in the dugout. Do you think going to guys like you can help that situation?
You know, Kevin, somewhere along the way, somebody took a chance on me. So when I see a young manager, I see somebody coming in and, you know, when I signed a one-year contract years ago, you know, you're on a one-year plan. So it's somewhere, I worry sometimes that we're not developing the managers sometime in the minor leagues that we need to. You know, you want to have that flow of it. You know, I think because the job description of minor league managers is so different today, and I have a respect for what they're trying to get them to do. But, you know, along the way, I think sometimes we lose that some of the things that managers have to have during the course of a game. So, you know, I watch, you know, sometimes change is good. You never confuse change with a lack of respect for tradition. You know, you try not to go down that vibe because, you know, you respect the tradition of baseball, but sometimes there's ways to make things better. And sometimes something new may not be better. So I think you try to challenge everything with an open mind. And I'm going to be open to everything, but I'm also going to challenge, you know, how did we get to that equation and how does that help us win a game in the 8th inning when you got 5 seconds to make a decision? You know, don't bring it in after the fact. I want to have an avenue where you feel comfortable bringing it in, but know that you're going to get, you know, okay, that's good. How did you arrive at that and how does that help us?
Let's sneak in one final question, Buck. Jerry Beach, go ahead. Your line's open.
Hey, Buck. I'm from Forbes.com, and I was just wondering what it was like for you the last 3 years when you're so close to the game, broadcasting it, talking about it, but not on the field. Like you said, that's the one thing you miss the most of all. What's that like for you being so close to it, observing it every day, still sort of on the outside?
Well, if I had to do something, I don't know, you know, the people at MLB Network and the way they treated me, and that was fun. And also when the game was over and the Yes Network were great. I mean, I couldn't ask, you know, John Filippelli and the people there, you know, Jared, they were great. And my issue, the good thing was that when the game was over, I put my head on the pillow and went to sleep. You know, it's funny, a few days ago, I was up, went to bed late, got up early, and my wife walked in and said, it's already started. You know, it's a labor of love, but I couldn't imagine if I had to be off the field, and it may have been a permanent thing. I was at peace with that. It was a great situation. So, you know, I had to think about it. You know, maybe this is where, you know, I needed or could or should be, you know, however you want to say it. So when this opportunity came along, you know, that was obviously something I wanted to do. But, you know, being with them and being involved in the game to that point and being able to stay on top of the personnel and the people involved in it, it was a great honor. Like, man, I know they put up with me. And, you know, some of the things you do to describe action in a dugout kind of gets, kind of handicaps you a little bit because you can't do it on live TV as they reminded me a few times. I couldn't describe that play like I would in the dugout.
Thank you, Buck and Angela. Thank you both for participating today. Sandy, Billy, thank you as well. Appreciate everybody's participation. Happy holidays, and we look forward to seeing everybody.
Aquí, en medio de la rivalidad Red Sox-Yankees, tengo que mandarle un saludo a todos los que ven la máquina deportiva. La máquina son ustedes, que tienen los motores encendidos y siguiendo béisbol, deporte, todos los días del año. Así que un beso para ustedes, soy Carolina Guillén, y un regalito para los fanáticos.